My family skipped my daughter's birthday. Again, no one showed. But then I uncovered their secret. My daughter Sophia spent her 6th birthday waiting in her sparkly Elsa dress, the one she begged me to buy from Target last Christmas. She stood by the glass sliding door of our small Chicago backyard, watching the gate, hoping someone would show up. I'd set up a folding table with a grocery store cake, chocolate with rainbow sprinkles, her favorite, and a dozen balloons tied to the fence. By evening, the July wind off Lake Michigan had knocked half of them loose, and they sagged against the patchy grass. Nobody came. Not my sister Jessica, not my dad Thomas, not a single person who calls themselves family. Sophia kept twirling, pretending she didn't care, but I saw her eyes dart to the gate every time a neighbor's car rumbled past on our street in Logan Square. That empty table still sits heavy in my chest, a quiet ache I can't shake. This wasn't the first time they skipped her birthday. Last year, Jessica blamed a power outage in Miami, where she lives now, and Dad said he was stuck in traffic on I-95. I believed them then, or wanted to. Family's supposed to show up, right? That's what Midwest summers are for. Backyard barbecues, kids running through sprinklers, aunts and grandpas piling in with dollar store gifts. But this year, they didn't even call. Just silence. The kind that feels louder than words. I tucked Sophia in that night, her tiara still pinned in her curls, and told her we'd have a do-over party soon. She nodded, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. I felt like I'd failed her, even though I'd done everything I could. 4 days later, my phone pinged with a bank alert while I was brewing coffee in our cramped kitchen, the one with peeling linoleum and a view of the neighbor's fire escape. My backup account, the emergency one, was hit for $3,200. I froze. The charges were from Target and an Apple store in Miami. Miami? I'm in Chicago scraping by on freelance marketing gigs. I don't own an iPad and Sophia's too young for one. At first I thought it was a scam, some hacker draining my savings. Then I remembered. That account was linked to a card I'd given Jessica last year, when Dad had a heart scare. She used it for his meds and groceries from Costco, maybe $400 total. She swore she'd only use it for him. I trusted her because she used to be my person, the sister who'd paint my nails and send me dumb TikToks. But she never gave the card back. I called her. No answer. Dad's phone went straight to voicemail. My hand shook as I typed a single text to our family group chat. Expect a call from my attorney. 10 minutes later, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Jessica sent voice messages, her voice high and frantic, saying it was a mistake. Dad texted, "Let's talk, honey. No need for lawyers." No need. They ignored my daughter's birthday and then took money I'd saved for her future. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the bank app, feeling betrayed but also foolish for trusting them too long. How did we get here? Let me take a step back to explain how things got this bad. Sophia was born in the middle of my toughest year back in 2020. I was going through a messy divorce from David, who worked as a sales rep and was always on the road. We met in college, but things fell apart when his job took him away too much, and I was left handling everything alone. Then I got laid off from my full-time marketing job at a downtown Chicago agency, the kind with open plan offices and free coffee, but no job security during the pandemic. On top of that, I had about $50,000 in student loans hanging over me from my degree in communications at Northwestern. That's pretty average for someone my age in the U.S., but it felt like a mountain. Bills piled up, and I remember sitting in our old apartment in Logan Square, staring at the stack of mail on the coffee table, feeling scared but also determined not to let it break me. Holding Sophia for the first time changed everything. She had these tiny fingers that wrapped around mine, and in that hospital room with beeping machines and fluorescent lights, I promised myself I'd build a better life for her. I started freelancing from home, designing social media campaigns for small businesses, working late nights at my desk in the corner of the living room, with Sophia sleeping in her crib nearby. It took time, but now I make around $60,000 a year, enough to cover rent on our 2-bedroom place and save a little each month. I didn't ask for help from family often, except that one time last year when Dad had his heart scare. He was in Miami complaining of chest pains, and the doctors said it was arrhythmia. After insurance, the out-of-pocket costs were about $2,000 for tests and follow-ups. Jessica offered to handle the errands since she lives down there too. She moved to Miami a few years ago for a job in real estate, selling condos to retirees. I gave her the card linked to my backup account, the one I keep for emergencies with a $5,000 limit. She used it for his prescriptions and some groceries from Costco, totaling around $400. Things like blood pressure meds at about $80 a bottle and basic staples like milk and bread. She promised it'd only be for Dad's stuff, and I believed her. We used to be close. She'd come visit Chicago and we'd hit up the Art Institute together, or she'd text me funny memes about bad dates. But looking back, I see now that Jessica was struggling too. Her real estate gigs were up and down with the market, and she mentioned once how stressed she was about commissions not coming in. Maybe that's why she started leaning on me more. But it doesn't excuse what happened. Dad was always the enabler in our family. He'd swing by our apartment when he visited Chicago, sitting in the old wooden rocker in Sophia's room, the one he picked up at a garage sale for her first birthday, and read her stories from those worn-out Dr. Seuss books. His voice would get all soft like he was trying to make up for not being around much when Jessica and I were kids. He retired early from his job as a mechanic in Detroit and moved to Miami for the warmer weather, saying the cold Chicago winters were too hard on his joints. But after I started setting boundaries, things shifted. I stopped lending money, like the time Jessica asked for $1,000 to cover a shopping spree she said was for work clothes. But I knew it was more about her liking nice things to feel better. And I stopped answering those late-night calls where she'd vent about her life without asking about mine. Dad didn't like that. He always said family should stick together, no matter what. But I think he was afraid of rocking the boat with Jessica, who he babied more after Mom passed away 10 years ago. I noticed the change that first Thanksgiving after Dad's recovery in 2024. No invitation to their Miami place. A cozy condo near South Beach with palm trees outside and a community pool. Instead, I saw photos on Instagram, them at a beachside dinner, toasting with turkey and cocktails, probably costing around $2,000 each for the flights and hotel if they'd invited us, but they didn't. Sophia saw the pictures too, tugging at my sleeve while we ate takeout pizza on our couch. "Mom, aren't we family anymore?" It hurt, that innocent question, and part of me wanted to call them out right then. But another part felt guilty, like maybe I'd pushed them away by being too firm. So I didn't confront them. Instead, I started keeping records, saving texts, noting missed calls, taking screenshots of the family chat going quiet. That's when I spotted the pattern on the bank statements for that emergency account. Small charges at first, $150 at Sephora for makeup like lipstick and skincare, the kind of impulse buys Jessica might make after a rough day at work. Then $400 spread out on Uber rides and DoorDash orders, maybe $50 a pop for takeout Thai or rides to client meetings, common in a busy city like Miami where parking's a nightmare. I let it go for a few months, telling myself it could be mistakes or that she'd pay it back. But deep down, I knew better. I needed solid proof, something that couldn't be brushed off. So I added $3,500 to the card, enough to tempt, but not so much it'd seem suspicious, based on what I'd seen her spend before. And I waited. 4 days after Sophia's birthday flop, there it was. $3,200 gone in one go. The details showed purchases at the Apple Store for 2 iPads, around $800 each, with cases and accessories adding another $400, and the rest at Target for clothes and household items, like $1,200 worth of stuff she probably didn't need but wanted. I sat in my home office, a converted closet with a laptop and a bulletin board of Sophia's drawings, staring at the screen. The IP address traced back to Jessica's condo address in Miami. It felt like a punch, but also a relief to finally know. Legally, this was credit card fraud under Illinois law, where I live. It means unauthorized use of someone's card, and since it was family, it complicated things. But I could report it to the police to start an official record. I felt angry, sure, but also sad for Jessica. If she was that desperate, why not just ask? And for Dad, who probably knew and looked the other way out of habit. I sat in my home office, the closet-sized space with Sophia's crayon drawings pinned to a corkboard above my laptop, and stared at the bank app showing that $3,200 charge. My heart was pounding, but I wasn't just angry. I was tired of feeling used. I wanted to scream, to call Jessica and demand answers, but a quieter part of me, the one that's been burned before, knew yelling wouldn't fix this. So I took a breath and got to work. First, I logged into my bank's app and froze the account. It took 2 minutes, no fees, just a few clicks to lock the card. Then I called the Chicago Police Department's non-emergency line, my hands shaking as I explained the charges. The officer was calm, said it sounded like credit card fraud, and told me to come to the station in Logan Square to file a report. I drove over that afternoon, past the Puerto Rican flags on Division Street and the coffee shops with patio tables, and handed over my bank statements and the IP trace, linking the purchases to Jessica's condo in Miami. It felt surreal, like I was betraying family, but also like I was finally standing up for Sophia. Filing the report was straightforward. Illinois law calls unauthorized card use theft, and the officer said my evidence was solid enough to start an investigation. But I wasn't done. I hired a lawyer, a guy named Mark, who worked out of a small office in Wicker Park. His fee was $600 up front, which stung my freelance budget, but he said we could file a civil case in Cook County's small claims court for up to $10,000. It wasn't just about the stolen money, 2 iPads at $800 each, $400 in accessories, $1,200 at Target for clothes and random stuff, but the hurt they caused Sophia. Mark explained we could claim emotional distress, something called intentional infliction under Illinois law, if we could show their pattern of neglect, like ignoring her birthdays, was deliberate and caused real harm. I had screenshots of every ignored text, every flimsy excuse, and that question from Sophia, "Aren't we family anymore?" It was enough to build a case, he said, but small claims court is simple. No big jury, just a judge looking at facts. I felt hopeful but also guilty, like I was airing dirty laundry. That's how family messes with you. You second guess what's right. I didn't stop there. I opened Facebook on my laptop, sitting on our worn-out couch with a cup of cold coffee, and typed out a post. I kept it calm. No names. Just the truth. Family doesn't always mean what you think. Sometimes it's secrets hidden in skipped celebrations, especially when they take from your kid's future. I hit post, my stomach in knots, half expecting nobody to care. But it spread fast. Old high school friends from Evanston messaged me, asking if I was okay. A coworker of Jessica's from her Miami real estate firm liked the post, which made me wonder if she was starting to feel the heat. Even one of Dad's golf buddies from his club in Coconut Grove sent a private message, saying he'd heard rumors and hoped we could work it out. In Chicago, we talk about community, neighbors who shovel each other's sidewalks after a snowstorm. But this felt different, like strangers were holding my family accountable when they wouldn't. Then came the confrontation. About a week later, I was washing dishes in our kitchen, the one with the chipped sink and a view of the alley where kids ride bikes, when the doorbell buzzed. It was Dad standing on my stoop in a wrinkled polo shirt, looking older than his 62 years. He'd flown up from Miami, probably a $300 round-trip ticket on Spirit Airlines. Not unusual for a last-minute flight in 2025. I didn't let him in. We stood there, the July humidity making my hair stick to my neck, and he said, "You didn't need to make this a big deal, honey." His voice was low, like he was trying to keep the peace, but I saw his hands fidget, a habit from when he's nervous. I didn't back down. "You didn't need to let Jessica steal from Sophia." He sighed, like the weight of it hit him. But there was no apology, just a flicker of shame before he doubled down. "You're tearing us apart," he said. I shook my head. "You did that when you chose silence over her birthday, when you let Jessica treat my account like her personal piggy bank." I handed him an envelope, court papers, served by Mark's office. The case was set for next month. Dad opened his mouth, then closed it. Finally, he muttered, "She's your sister." She didn't mean it. I think he wanted to believe that, maybe because admitting otherwise meant he'd failed as a dad. Jessica's always been his favorite ever since Mom died, and he spent years cleaning up her messes, bailing her out of credit card debt, making excuses when she flaked on family, but I wasn't buying it anymore. She meant every ignored text, every no-show, every dollar, I said, my voice steady but sharp. He turned to leave, and I felt a mix of relief and sadness, like I was losing something I'd already let go of years ago. After Dad left my stoop that day, I stood in the doorway, watching him walk down the street toward a waiting rideshare, his shoulders slouched under the weight of that envelope. My Logan Square apartment felt quieter than usual, the hum of the fridge filling the space where I wanted an apology but knew I wouldn't get one. The next few weeks were a blur of emails with Mark, my lawyer, and gathering more evidence. Every text I'd sent about Sophia's birthday, every call log showing no answer, every bank statement with those sneaky charges. I felt determined, but there was this nagging guilt, like I was breaking some unspoken family rule by holding them accountable. It's hard to explain, but part of me still hoped Jessica would call and explain herself, maybe say she was drowning in her own problems. She never did. The lawsuit didn't go to a full trial. Mark said most small claims cases in Cook County settle out of court to avoid the hassle in public record. And that's what happened. Jessica and Dad agreed to pay back the $3,200 they'd taken. Those 2 iPads, accessories, and Target hauls, plus another $2,500 for emotional distress. It wasn't a fortune, but it was fair, based on what Mark said similar cases settle for in Illinois. Usually between $5,000 and $10,000 when you've got solid proof like mine. The money came through a bank transfer, and the apology was a stiff email from their lawyer, no personal note, just legal jargon about resolving the matter. I read it at my kitchen table, Sophia's latest drawing of a rainbow taped to the fridge, and felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. I'd won, but it didn't erase the sting of those empty birthday chairs. I never told Sophia the full story. She's 6, and I want her world to stay full of princess dresses and hope, not family drama. Instead, I used some of the money to make things right for her. I bought her a bright red scooter from Target, about $100, the kind she'd been eyeing on our last shopping trip. We spent a Saturday at the Adler Planetarium, just the 2 of us, wandering through the Galaxy exhibits for $50 in tickets, her eyes wide at the stars. And I took her for a weekend at Starved Rock State Park, a couple hours from Chicago. The cabin and gas cost around $200, but watching her chase fireflies by the Illinois River, giggling without a care, was worth every penny. Those moments, her laughter, her little hand in mine, felt like a clean slate, no shadows of ghosted birthdays lingering. I don't hate Jessica or Dad. Hate feels too heavy, like carrying a bag of groceries up 3 flights of stairs. I'm just done letting them take pieces of me. Living in Chicago, you learn to keep going, shoveling snow, hustling for freelance gigs, showing up for your kid even when you're tired. They taught me to be tougher, to draw lines and mean them. I'm not loud about it. I'm steady, focused, like the city itself. They learned their lesson, and I made sure of it.